The Holy Cross Mountains of Świętokrzyskie province. Something to conjure with. These prehistoric outcroppings date back 500 million years and were once of Himalayan height. Today, the highest point within these hills, and indeed the highest point between southern Poland, the Tatra Mountains, etc., and the Urals, is still the Holy Cross Mountains, and specifically Bald Mountain or Świętokrzyskie. Świętokrzyskie is and was a sacred spot. Today the hill's summit is crowned with a basilica, which has stood for many centuries. But this is something to think about. A pagan wall, the remnants of a pagan wall, exists, crumbled and forgotten, like something out of a Shelley poem, symbolizing the peoples who once lived and worshipped here in pre-Christian times. There is something about this area. The oldest oak is here, the Bartek oak, 800 years old. This majestic tree is a stone's throw, or a few kilometers drive, if you will, from Heceny Castle. This strong point commanded traffic in the Kielce area for centuries. The bear went over the mountain to see what he could see, and we're going to do the same thing. Join us in the Holy Cross Mountains. I'm Will Richardson, and this is Poland Daily Travel, the show we do for you.
Oh, hello everybody, and welcome to the next series of episodes of Poland Daily Travel, the show that brings you more about Poland and its travel destinations than any other show you will ever see in the history of the world. Well, maybe not, that's going too far, but we aim to do our best. And with that purpose in mind, we have come to the Holy Cross Mountains. The Holy Cross Mountains, of course, are in the middle of Poland. And at this time of year, as you can see behind me, this is middle of October. At this time of year, the trees have turned, and we have what is known as the Golden Polish Autumn. That's right. And you're going to see a lot of that in the next series, few episodes. Okay. And so we're in the Holy Cross Mountains. We're very close to Kielce. Kielce sits right in the middle of this area. And we're about 15, 20 kilometers from Kielce. And we're going to start, since we're talking about trees, we're talking about leaves, we're talking about forest, something apparently that everyone in the world is very interested in at this particular time. We're going to pay a little homage to trees, forests, and the beauty of nature in this next series of episodes. And there is no better place in this country, perhaps in this region of the world, than right where we are today. The Świętokrzyskie Mountains, the Holy Cross Mountains, that's the translation. And where does it get its name from? Well, that's a bit of a mystery, and we'll come back to it later. It's a very interesting story, which you may or may not believe. What's next? I'm going to show you something phenomenal. We're going to show you the oldest tree in Poland. Stay tuned after the bumper. Hi, welcome back. Just as promised, I'm across the street, I'm in the little park, and what you're going to see pretty soon is amazing. You're going to see one of the oldest trees and the most famous tree in the whole country of Poland. It's about 700 to 1,000 years old. It may not be the oldest tree, but it's certainly the most famous tree. And when you see it, you'll be amazed. I have an oak tree in my yard, in my garden in the United States, in Virginia, which is about 200 years old. And the difference between a tree of that age, which is a pretty big tree, and a tree of this size is amazing. And you'll see why the tree is so beloved and so famous. Its name is Bartek, which is short for, in English, the name Bartholomew. So the tree even has its own name and its own particular place in the folklore and legends of Poland. So have a look around at the park, though. Itself is very, very, say, pleasant and restful on a beautiful fall day, or autumn if you prefer. This is a stop in this little park where people come on their journey and relax. And what do you see behind me? Isn't it amazing? Look at this tree. You talk about preservation and ecology. Well, you can see all the lengths that have been gone to support this tree. I think it has about 8 branches, if I remember correctly from my reading. It's about 8 branches. There used to be 14 different, branches from the trunk, big branches. And a lot of them have been lost. The tree is rather hollow now. It's not as strong as it used to be, and not in the best health, as happens to trees when they get extremely old, as this one is. And you can see how the canopy spreads out. How many tree houses could you put? You could put several families could live there, couldn't they? On each sort of branch. It reminds me of the Swiss family Robinson from my childhood reading, where the whole family lived in this huge banyan tree. Well, this is the equivalent. It's the European equivalent of the banyan tree, which spreads out massively against the sky. Isn't it amazing? Especially in the sun's just coming out and showing it even in a, if you'll forgive the phrase, a better light, if that's possible. If you see at the base, try to imagine that during Kazimierz the Great's time, he actually held council under this tree. We know that's true because there were contemporary accounts of it, historical accounts, and that would have been, several hundred years ago, up to 700 years ago, if memory serves. And not only that, King Sobieski in the late 1600s, after the Battle of Vienna, stopped here to rest as well. So it's got a history, it's got a royal history, but look at it itself. It's majestic, it has its own majesty. The oak is the royal tree. It is the great tree of Europe and of the United States, I can say. And if we look at it, we can feel that awesome, this is amazing. I had no idea it would be quite this big and quite this triumphant as it is. So it's a good place to start our journey through Świętokrzyskie by looking at good old Bartek, the centuries and centuries old tree. And this symbol of ecology and preservation. And you can see that just by looking at it. The care that's been taken to make this, to continue this legacy into the future. Well, I'm going to walk around. I saw a souvenir seller on the other side, so I'm going to walk over and I'm going to have a word with him and see what kind of souvenirs he's got. Because I reckon the souvenir of this tree is well worth having as a present.